Imagine standing at a crossroads where one path leads to honor, wealth, and wisdom, while the other, clouded by greed and doubt, ends in regret and loss. The pivotal factor isn't an external enemy but an internal voice, a fleeting impulse with the power to alter your life's trajectory. This narrative delves into the universal struggle between integrity and temptation. Each day, negative thoughts threaten to derail our principles. But can we master our minds, defeat destructive impulses, and harness positivity to shape a prosperous future? Drawing from Buddhist philosophy and psychological insights, we explore the profound journey of mastering one's thoughts. Long ago, in a serene kingdom nestled among rolling hills and lush valleys, lived a young man named Arun. Though well regarded for his unwavering honesty and integrity, Arun faced persistent hardship and poverty. Each morning before dawn, Arun rose with hope in his heart, venturing into town seeking any work that could earn him enough to survive another day. His village was a quiet place where people valued honesty, yet opportunities were scarce. Farmers toiled under the sun, merchants bartered their goods, and blacksmiths worked tirelessly at their forges. But despite his best efforts, Arun found it increasingly difficult to secure a stable livelihood. On many days he would knock on doors, offering to carry loads for merchants, help with fieldwork, or assist craftsmen, but more often than not, he was turned away with sympathetic words and empty hands. His mother had passed away when he was young, and his father, a once respected scholar, had succumbed to illness, leaving Arun to fend for himself. His only possessions were the simple tunic he wore and a small wooden amulet his father had given him, engraved with a symbol of wisdom. Despite his struggles, Arun refused to compromise his values. He had seen others in his position resort to theft or deceit, but he clung to the belief that integrity would eventually lead him to success. However, as the years went by, his patience wore thin. At night, he would lie awake in his small hut, staring at the ceiling, questioning whether his honesty was truly worth the suffering. Was it foolish to hold on to morality in a world that seemed indifferent to virtue? His days were long and arduous, filled with moments that tested his resolve. There were days when his stomach ached from hunger, and the sight of others enjoying feasts in the village square made him question why fate had dealt him such a cruel hand. He often overheard whispers in the marketplace of men who had amassed wealth through trickery and dishonesty, their success serving as a painful reminder of his own struggle. Yet he reminded himself that wealth obtained through deceit was fleeting, and only a life built on virtue could bring true peace of mind. One evening, as he walked past a dimly lit alley, he witnessed a gang of thieves dividing their loot, their laughter echoing into the night. He paused for a moment, considering what it would be like to take what he wanted rather than working endlessly for nothing. The thought was brief but potent, a dangerous whisper in the depths of his mind. He shook it off, but the question lingered, was integrity truly the right path, or was he merely a fool clinging to a fading ideal? As time passed, the weight of uncertainty grew heavier. He tried seeking guidance from the village elders, but their words felt hollow, spoken by men who had long since secured their comfort. The burden of his conscience warred with the reality of his suffering, and for the first time in his life, Arun felt truly lost. As the village's evening bells rang one fateful day, signaling the end of another fruitless search for work, Arun found himself walking along the edge of town, lost in thought. It was then that he heard a voice behind him, raspy yet firm. "Young man, can you help me?" Yet, despite his sincerity, Arun constantly faced rejection, day after day. As months turned into years, his optimism waned. His honest ways had earned respect but not wealth. Gradually, bitterness began to seep into his heart. Questions of unfairness haunted him. Why must I suffer despite my integrity? He wondered silently each evening. One particular day, after yet another fruitless search for work, Arun trudged home with weary steps, his mind clouded by doubt and despair. The sky was painted in hues of orange and purple, the setting sun casting long shadows across the narrow dirt path. As he walked, his thoughts wandered to all the times he had struggled, to the moments he had gone to bed hungry, to the bitter realization that his honesty had not yet yielded the success he had once hoped for. He let out a heavy sigh, kicking at a loose stone on the path. "Is this what my life is destined to be?" he muttered under his breath. He passed by the marketplace where vendors were packing up their stalls, their pockets jingling with coins from the day's earnings. He envied them, not for their wealth, but for their stability, for their certainty in tomorrow. Just as he reached the outskirts of the village, he heard the soft yet commanding voice of an elderly man behind him. "Young man, can you help me?" Startled, Arun turned to find an old traveler standing with 3 large bags at his feet. The man's face was lined with deep wrinkles, his white beard long and unkempt, yet his eyes gleamed with an unusual sharpness. His clothes, though simple, were finely woven, hinting at a status beyond that of an ordinary wanderer. "I must journey to the next village," the traveler continued, "but I cannot carry all these bags alone. If you assist me, I will reward you handsomely." Arun hesitated, glancing at the heavy-looking bags. He was exhausted, his muscles ached, but the mention of a reward stirred something within him. "What kind of payment are you offering?" he asked cautiously. The old man smiled knowingly. 3 gold coins for your trouble. Enough to buy food for many days, perhaps even a new set of clothes. Will you help?" Arun's stomach tightened. Gold coins were a rare sight in his hands. He could not recall the last time he had held even a single one. His heart wavered between skepticism and desperate hope. "Very well," he said at last, stepping forward. "I will help you." Turning around, Arun saw an elderly traveler standing with 3 bags beside him. The old man's weathered face bore deep lines, yet his eyes sparkled with wisdom. "I must journey to the next village, but 1 bag is too heavy for me. Will you help me carry it? I shall reward you with 3 gold coins." Intrigued and hopeful, Arun lifted 1 bag, surprised by its immense weight. His arms strained under its unexpected heaviness. He remarked, "This feels heavier than gold." The traveler smiled faintly. "Indeed, it's filled with bronze coins. They may not be as valuable as gold, but their weight reminds us of the burdens we carry in life." As they set forth along the winding path, Arun adjusted his grip, feeling each step grow heavier. The road stretched long before them, curving through dense forests where towering trees cast elongated shadows in the fading light. Birds fluttered from branch to branch, their songs echoing faintly through the still air, providing a rhythmic counterpoint to the crunch of their footsteps on the gravel path. The old traveler walked with surprising steadiness, though his eyes often darted toward Arun, watching him carefully. This silent scrutiny unsettled Arun, sparking a flicker of irritation. The deeper they ventured into the forest, the more isolated the path became. The thick canopy overhead allowed only slivers of moonlight to filter through, casting eerie patterns on the ground. Arun tightened his grip on the bag, his muscles burning from the strain. The old man's silence felt heavier than the load he carried. Arun couldn't help but wonder why this stranger kept looking at him as if measuring his soul. Ahead, the path split into two. One trail led downhill toward a stream, its waters glistening in the dim light, while the other climbed up a steep incline, disappearing into dense foliage. The old traveler stopped abruptly, studying both paths before turning to Arun. "Which way should we go?" he asked, his tone unreadable. Arun hesitated. The downhill path seemed easier, but something about the traveler's question made him pause. "The road uphill is more difficult," Arun reasoned aloud, "but it may be the correct path. Easy roads often lead nowhere." The traveler nodded approvingly. "A wise choice," he murmured, stepping toward the incline. Arun followed, his legs protesting with each step. The climb was treacherous, the loose stones underfoot making it difficult to maintain balance. At one point, Arun stumbled, nearly dropping the bag. The traveler caught his arm, steadying him with surprising strength. "A strong mind steadies the body," he said cryptically, before continuing ahead. With every labored step, Arun's frustration grew. Why did the traveler keep testing him? Why did this journey feel less like a task and more like a lesson? Questions swirled in his mind, each one adding to the unseen weight pressing upon his thoughts. A gentle breeze rustled through the leaves, carrying with it the scent of damp earth. As the two journeyed onward, Arun began to notice the unevenness of the path. Sharp stones jutted from the ground, making each step a challenge. Sweat gathered at his brow, his muscles aching under the strain of the load. Every so often, the traveler would glance back, his expression unreadable. After what felt like hours, the road led them to a clearing where an old wooden bench sat beneath a sprawling banyan tree. The traveler gestured toward it. "Let us rest here for a moment." Arun gratefully lowered the bag onto the ground, stretching his tired limbs. He could feel the throbbing in his shoulders and arms, but he said nothing. As he sat, he couldn't help but cast a glance at the heavy bag. "Bronze coins," he muttered to himself. "Yet they feel as though they hold the weight of a mountain." The traveler chuckled softly, his gaze fixed on the darkening sky. "It is not just the weight of the bag that burdens you, young man, but the weight of your own doubts. A heavy mind makes every step more difficult." As they journeyed together, Arun felt the traveler's cautious glances weighing heavily upon him. Doubt crept into his mind. He pondered, "Does he suspect I might steal from him?" This suspicion unsettled Arun deeply. Yet, determined to prove his honesty, he pressed on. Along the way, they stopped at a small village where the traveler insisted on resting. He requested Arun to keep watch over the bags while he went into an inn to refresh himself. Arun sat by the bags, but his thoughts spiraled. Why is he testing me so much? Why is he so careful with these coins? The temptation grew stronger. Soon they reached a wide, rushing river. The elderly traveler hesitated, troubled. "My strength fails me in these waters. Would you carry this second bag? It contains silver coins." Arun agreed, although resentment began to simmer within him. Why does this old man still mistrust me? Have I not already proven my integrity? He questioned silently, accepting the heavier load. Crossing the river proved arduous. With each careful step, Arun's mind wrestled between duty and anger. Upon reaching the other side, fatigue clouded his judgment further. The journey continued until they approached a steep, rocky hillside. The old man paused again, visibly struggling with the final bag. He admitted quietly, "This last bag contains gold coins. Can you carry it for me?" By now, Arun's frustration peaked. Negative thoughts swirled uncontrollably, tempting him fiercely. "If I took these bags now, who could stop me? With this gold, my struggles would end forever. I could leave poverty behind," he reasoned internally. His resolve crumbled under temptation. Swiftly, Arun seized all 3 bags and dashed off into the darkness. Breathless, exhilarated, and driven by greed, he finally arrived home and hastily opened the bags. To his horror, instead of coins, he found worthless stones. Hidden among the stones was a neatly folded note. It read, "I am the king, aging and without an heir. I sought an honest soul to inherit my throne. Had you resisted temptation, you would have become my successor." Arun sank to his knees, devastated. The fleeting thought that promised freedom had stolen everything from him. He recognized too late how negativity had clouded his mind and robbed him of a priceless opportunity. His breath came in ragged gasps as realization struck him like a hammer to his chest. He had spent years upholding his integrity, resisting temptation at every turn, yet in a single moment of weakness, he had unraveled everything he stood for. His hands trembled as he picked up the note again, as if rereading it would somehow change the words, change his fate. "Had you resisted temptation, you would have become my successor." The words echoed in his mind, each syllable laced with cruel finality. The weight of his actions crushed him, heavier than any bag he had carried on his journey. He had failed, not just the old man, not just the king, but himself. Arun thought back to every step he had taken that day, every moment where he had allowed doubt to creep in. The old traveler had not just been testing his strength, but his spirit. The journey had been more than a task, it had been a lesson, one he had failed to grasp in time. He had mistaken patience for suspicion, wisdom for weakness, and now, he was left with nothing but regret. Tears burned his eyes as he whispered to himself, "What have I done?" He clenched his fists, his nails digging into his palms. If only he had ignored the temptation. If only he had trusted in his own principles. But life did not grant second chances for moments like these. He had lost something that could never be regained, and no amount of sorrow would change that. Arun remained on the ground long after the sun had set, the weight of his mistake pressing him into the earth. He had spent his life believing that honesty would be enough, but now he understood. It was not just about being honest when it was easy, but about remaining steadfast when temptation whispered sweet lies in one's ear. And for that lesson, he had paid the highest price. Arun's story vividly illustrates the power of unchecked negative thoughts. A single doubt, if left to fester, can spiral into a storm of misguided choices, altering the course of one's life forever. The teachings of Buddha affirm that our greatest battles are internal, stating, "Our greatest enemy cannot harm us as much as our own unguarded thoughts." History and philosophy both support this notion. Our thoughts shape our reality, influencing every aspect of our lives. When negativity takes root, It spreads like a wildfire, distorting perceptions, clouding judgment, and dictating emotions. Over time, these unchecked thoughts become ingrained patterns that steer us toward impulsive and destructive actions. Arun's downfall was not the result of an external adversary, but rather his own inability to recognize and silence the whispers of doubt before they consumed him. The temptation that seemed small at first grew into a storm, ultimately driving him to a decision that sealed his fate. Modern psychology echoes this wisdom, identifying cognitive distortions that warp perceptions and provoke misguided decisions. These distortions, such as catastrophizing, black and white thinking, and emotional reasoning, lead individuals to make choices based on fear rather than reality. Arun fell victim to these distortions, allowing fleeting uncertainties to morph into overwhelming self-doubt. Instead of questioning his thoughts, he accepted them as truth, leading him down a path of impulsivity and regret. His failure was not in his initial hesitation, but in his inability to challenge the narrative forming in his own mind, a trap many fall into when negativity takes hold. How can we guard ourselves against Arun's fate? First, acknowledge negative thoughts without becoming enslaved to them. Recognize that they are transient and do not define your reality. Instead of reacting impulsively, observe them with awareness and question their validity. Consciously disengage from them by shifting your focus to constructive and positive alternatives, choosing a path aligned with your values and long-term aspirations. Practicing thought replacement transforms negative beliefs into constructive affirmations. When self-doubt arises, counter it with statements of confidence and resilience. Instead of thinking, "I will fail," affirm, "I am learning and improving every day." Replace thoughts of inadequacy with reminders of past successes and potential growth. Mindfulness, deeply rooted in Buddhism, trains us to observe our thoughts without judgment, recognize their impermanence, and ultimately detach from their destructive grip, allowing us to cultivate a healthier and more empowered mindset. Each day presents us with crossroads where the decisions we make shape our future. Negative thoughts are inevitable, but our ability to recognize, challenge, and redirect them determines the course of our lives. When faced with negativity, take a deep breath, step back, and ask yourself, "Is this thought empowering me, or is it leading me down a path of doubt and fear?" By consciously choosing thoughts that uplift and inspire, we take control of our destiny rather than becoming prisoners of our own minds. By thoughtfully managing our internal dialogue and nurturing positivity, we can construct a life rich in fulfillment, honor, and peace. True strength lies not in overcoming external foes but in mastering the internal battlefield, the battle within. Remember, every challenge is an opportunity to grow, and every negative thought is a chance to strengthen your resilience. If you found value in this message and want to continue learning and improving your mindset, don't forget to like this video, subscribe to the channel, and share it with others. The more we engage with positive content, the more we equip ourselves with powerful vocabulary and lessons that enhance not just our language skills but also our approach to life. Let's embark on this journey of personal growth together.